Hey guys, and welcome to another season of the Us People podcast. I'm your host, Savia Rocks, and in this season, we uncover the remarkable power of genuine compassion and insightful vision. This season, we're here to show the world that we, as individuals, are the brand, regardless of misconceptions. Join us as we go deep into the inspiring journeys of our guests, each one a testament to the impact and influence of kindness and creativity. Don't just take my word for it. Hear their stories, feel their passion, and discover the transformative potential within us all. So stay tuned as we shine a light on the truths that connects us and inspires change.
Hi, I'm Karlyle Tomm, that's spelled Karlyle Tomms, and I am an author and a bunch of other things. And you are listening to the Us People podcast with Savia Rocks, and she does rock.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Us People podcast. I'm your host, Savia Rocks, and today I have the beautiful Karlyle here with me, who is an award-winning novelist and screenwriter. Karlyle, thank you so much for taking your time to come on the Us People podcast. How are you?
I'm really very, very good for in the middle of the night in America.
Exactly that. Yeah, it is the middle of the night in America, and you look awesome as well. That's the thing. You look fresh and awake, and oh, bless you. Thank you so much.
It's rare that I don't look fresh.
No, I think
And
you look
sometimes
fresh.
I get fresh.
Okay, I like that one. That was cool. So, Carla, my first question for you is, could you tell me a bit about yourself, where you grew up, but also more importantly, how this influenced you to be the person who you are today?
I don't know if most of your audience is around the UK or not, probably.
No, all over the world. Yeah.
From all over.
Yeah.
People may not know that in the middle of the United States is a small mountain range called the Ozarks.
Yes.
And I grew up in the foothills of the Ozarks in a very rural area, very secluded rural area. In the 1960s, attending a fundamentalist church, and grew up gay. And I was raised as an only child, although I had siblings. It's a long story. My dad and mom separated when she was pregnant with me. She came back to Arkansas. Well, technically, I'm a hillbilly half-breed because
The way you say that.
the family moved to California and didn't think about culture shock. And then they loaded up the truck and they moved back home. But my mom stayed and she met my dad there. So my mom died when I was 5 years old. She was killed in a car wreck. And my grandparents took me in and never told my dad that my mom had died. They had had a rough time with each other, you know. So she came back to Arkansas. She had me. And then she died just a couple of weeks after my 5th birthday. And my grandparents then raised me as an only child on the farm.
Even hearing that is a story within itself, to be quite fair. How was that?
Yeah.
How was that emotionally for you, especially as a young child, to know that your mom has passed
emotionally,
away?
it was terrifying.
Yeah.
Initially, I had my mother's oldest brother, her only brother, the firstborn child. He was 34 when I was 5 years old, but he had been spoiled and coddled, and I had never left home, never married, was an alcoholic.
Wow. Okay.
He did not like to share. My mom died. I'm a poor little orphan, and all the women in the family are hugging me to their bosom, and he's jealous. And
Mm.
his response to that was to take it out on me.
Okay.
So I grew up with him abusing me.
Yes.
And losing my mom, I got off the bus about a year after she died, and around the same month that she died. And there was nobody in the house. There were no cars in the driveway. There was no one in the house. And I go in the house calling for grandma and grandpa and even my Uncle Ray, and no one was in the house. And I thought everybody had abandoned me, like my mom had abandoned me. And I thought I was left all on my own. I knew I couldn't deal with it. And I had a total meltdown, screaming and crying. And I just remember how totally empty that felt and how
Yes.
totally terrifying that felt. And I was out on, I went back out on the front porch and I was screaming and crying. My grandmother had gone to the backside of a 160-acre farm. There was a creek on the backside of the farm, and she'd gone fishing,
Mm.
and she forgot the time.
Ah, okay.
And she heard me screaming off across that 160
I bet
acres.
she ran as. Mm-hmm.
She came running back. Um, she never ever left again. She made sure she was there every time I got off the bus for the entire rest of the time that I was in school. That never happened again. And grandma always made sure that she was there for me.
See, this is what I love. The grandmas have a significant place in our hearts because they view things differently. They know that if they make, a
She
mistake.
was she was my anchor, and
Mm.
I define an anchor. When I used to work in social work, I would look at this and I would ask people about whether they had this in their childhood.
Yes.
If a ship has an anchor, the storm comes, it
Yes.
does damage, but the anchor holds it steady and it doesn't destroy the ship. If a ship has no anchor, the storm comes and bashes it against the rocks and the ship is destroyed.
Yes.
So to me, an anchor is someone in a child's life who they know loves them no matter what,
Yes.
who they can turn to and confide in. And that was my grandmother. She was my anchor. And it could be an older sibling, it could be an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, it could be a teacher, it could be a neighbor, any number of people who could be an anchor for that child going through those kinds of things and hold them steady. What I learned is people who don't have that anchor in their childhood often don't make it.
Yeah.
And they often have an extremely difficult time trusting or developing or maintaining relationships. But when you have that anchor, that's part of what gets you through it. It's what helps you heal.
I agree. It's a lot of people go through trauma of having that done in their lives. I think, and I also believe that life can also be a choice that we decide to make, and the choices that we decide to make determine our future and who we become also. And that's a fundamental part of us. And it's so important for us to understand that and learn that, Karlyle, as well.
Mhm.
I completely
One of
agree.
the things that I teach people is that there are basically two elements in life: there's destiny and there's choice.
Yes.
Destiny is anything that I cannot control. And destiny can be created by someone else's choice, what
Mm-hmm.
something they do that affects me that I can't control. And choice is the only thing I can control. So when I understand that I have to deal with destiny and understand that it is what it is, at least for now. It may change in 5 minutes, it
Yes.
may change tomorrow, but it is what it is for now. And the question is, what choice do I need to make to be able to accept it, work with it? We all make those choices every day. It's like choosing whether or not to love ourselves and choosing whether or not to care for ourselves and to manage our stress and how we conduct our relationships. Everybody chooses all the time. The problem is when people try to control or change things that are destiny. It's like my mother dying was destiny. That formed my life. And it meant that instead of growing up in LA with my dad, who was an electrical engineer, and raising two kids in a middle class home with a pool in the backyard, I grew up in a 4-room house with no running water,
See,
raised by my grandparents. That was my destiny, and that's what has made me who I am, having those experiences.
I think you had humble beginnings, but that also made you a brilliant person because of how you saw things. Because imagine if you did live, for example, imagine if you did go to live with your father, you could have or would have been a completely different person.
Yep, I've thought of that. Of course, you imagine what would have happened if things had been different.
Yes.
If if I had grown up in LA with my dad,
Yes.
you know, my dad he was a, kind of a writer. The first book that was ever published about Japanese prisoners of war was about my dad.
Okay.
And he was captured in Guam a few days after Pearl Harbor, and he spent the duration of World War II as a Japanese POW.
Okay.
And then when my mom met him, here he was. I found him by her. When she died, what I had of my father was an autographed copy of his book that he had autographed to her.
Okay.
And but he had been he was doing bit parts as an actor for Universal Studios when she met him. He swore that there was one movie that he starred in that was, to quote him, so bad they sold it to Egypt. I don't know. I don't know if he ever starred in a movie or not, but he did bit parts and he did worked as extras and that kind of thing when he was young. And I think, if I had grown up there, all the the creativity in me would have probably been fostered and nurtured, and my dad probably would have taken me to acting classes and all
Yeah.
kinds of other things that he would have done. But in the Ozarks, what I got from my grandparents, who raised 5 children during the Great Depression,
Mm.
was don't risk it. It's also one of the reasons why my grandmother told me when I was growing up, your mother always wanted you to go to college. So I'm the only person on my mother's side of the family ever to finish a degree.
I like that.
You know,
See, I like that.
I that set my destiny. That choice, I couldn't disappoint my deceased mother. But when I was 18, I found my dad. I was 18. Grandpa couldn't forbid it anymore.
Yes.
And I tried writing the Marines. He had been a Marine. I tried writing the Marines, and of course, I never got a response. So I wrote a letter to the publishing company of his book.
Mm-hmm.
They wrote me back and said, "We do not release the addresses of our authors,
Okay.
but we have forwarded the letter to him."
Yes.
And then he wrote me, sent
Okay.
me a letter, and then that's how we connected when I was an adult.
See, I'm gonna get more into that. So, how was it for the first time? when you actually saw your father? What were the emotions like? How did he respond to you?
Well, the only thing my grandparents knew, when he came out of prisoner of war camp, 4 years as a prisoner of war,
Yeah.
he was drinking heavily. I mean, I'm sure that he had PTSD. I know that he
Mm.
did. And he was drinking heavily. He was womanizing. He was mistreating my mom. I don't think he ever beat her or did anything like that. He wasn't that kind of guy. Um, but that's why, I mean, she left him because of him having affairs and embarrassing her and that kind of thing. So, um, the only thing my grandparents knew about him were the stories that my mom had told. And she was telling those stories from a place where he had deeply hurt her.
Yes, understood.
So, their impression of him is he's a bad guy. And when I met him, I wanted to meet him. I wanted to get to know him, but I also didn't trust him fully.
Yes.
And he came to Little Rock. I met him in Little Rock. He flew in, and we spent a weekend together, that first meeting. Spent a weekend together. When he left, he hugged me. That was the first time in my life a man had ever hugged me. And in that 18 years, since my mom had known him, he had done a lot of healing and a lot of growing himself.
Yes. Yeah. I understand that. Which kind of
Yeah.
leads me on to my next question more about you, Carlyle, which is, can you define yourself as a person, but also who do you see when you look in the mirror? But on the flip side of that question, has there ever been a time where you have looked in a mirror and not recognized the person staring back at you? How did you manage to understand, become the person that you wanted to be, knowing that you do have a purpose?
There were many times that I looked in the mirror and I didn't like the person that I saw.
Yeah.
Um, you know, a small child cannot discern the difference between nectar and poison.
Yes.
And when you're fed poison by adults and you're growing up, and I was also bullied and made fun of in school, and you're fed that poison, and then you start to feel poisoned
Mm-hmm.
emotionally, and you start to hate yourself like you think they hate you.
Yeah.
And so you look in that mirror, and what you see is someone who's unworthy. That was a huge battle. That's part of that overcoming, is looking in the mirror and seeing someone that you love.
Yes.
I don't know if you see here, let me do it again. On my phone, um,
Oh, yes.
I have
Yes.
on my phone cover, I've got a picture of myself as a little boy.
Yes.
So that every time I open my phone, there he is. And I think to myself, I love you, buddy.
I like that.
Because he's still in there, he's still in there. And when we don't get what we need as children,
Mm-hmm.
then one of the things we have to learn to do as adults is self-parent.
Yes. Very much so.
I have to learn how to give to myself what was not given to me as a
I,
child.
yes.
So, but my grandmother, my family was not very demonstrative, and nobody hugged. And when I got to college, I met this wonderful mentor, this wonderful friend. Her name was Marcy, and she was goofy, and she was also affectionate. And she told me I should be affectionate too. And I'd never been affectionate with my grandmother, never hugged or anything like that. And I went home and hugged my grandmother, and she took to it like a duck to water. And when
Yeah.
I was in college, our relationship flourished after that, because we were freed up with one another, and we did express that affection that had always been at arm's length. I tried hugging my grandfather, and I might as well have been hugging a fence post.
I know those ones.
He couldn't take it. He couldn't handle it. It just was not something that it was so foreign to him that someone would be affectionate.
Yeah. It can also be a generational thing, also, I've learned
Yeah, yeah.
massively.
They
Whereas,
were the children of Victorians.
yes, very true. Whereas
Hmm.
our generations are more likely to hug and want to hug. But again, it's a choice of how we decide to show our affection, how we decide to build love in ourselves and have that compassion to pass it on to other people. Because it's completely where my father hugs loads, whereas my mother, no way. No way is a hug, and it feels more like a side hug rather than a natural hug itself. So I can definitely
Yeah,
completely understand it.
there are so many different kinds of hugs. There are the come up, just the upper part of your chest with a quick little slap on the back.
Oh yeah, I know the.
And I'm not quite comfortable with this. Then
You
there's
could
the
tell it's true.
side hug.
Yes, the
You know,
one.
then there are the people. I love these people in my life. They're the people that they hug you and you just feel like you
Melt.
melt into each other
Yeah,
for a few seconds. You
yeah.
know, those are such wonderful people who just embrace you completely.
Those are the hugs that I love. Those are the ones where you melt away. And I'm small, so anytime I hug someone, I go all in. So, and I
Well, I
completely
had to
love
give
that.
myself permission to do that.
Yes,
That's one of the things I learned, and one of the things I was so lucky when I went to college to have, in particular, this one mentor,
hmm,
Marcy, who took me under her wing. She was a little bit older than me. She had quit college and worked to put her husband through to get his PhD in psychology. And the deal was when he got a job after he got his PhD, then she could go back to college.
I like that.
So he got a job at the local mental health center, and then she came back to college, and that's she saw something in me and took me under her wing, and she did more to turn me around than therapists did.
See,
Um, she was just a very wise person, and just one of those serendipitous kind of things to have that.
yes,
And we go back to the anchor. When someone doesn't have an anchor, I think if I didn't have the anchor of my grandmother growing
yes,
up and connections to the wisdom that she had developed, I don't think I would have trusted Marcy.
yes. That's very
you
true.
know
Yeah,
and I
that
don't
is
think that
abundantly
that
true.
would have happened.
That is actually abundantly true. So let's talk about your book. There are so many questions that I do want to ask you because obviously reading through and making notes and understanding you a lot better and what you went through and also relating myself to that too. I would love to know. Please tell everyone the title of your book because I don't want to spoil it for everyone. So I would like it to come from you. The title of your book, but the emotional attachment of the reason why you decided to write this book.
Okay. The title of the book is "The Gulls Are Always Laughing: A Gay Man's
Yes.
Journey to Healing and Spirituality."
Yes.
And it's a collection. It's both poetry and prose. It's
Yes.
not just poetry. It's my life story told in both poetry and prose. And the idea came from the gulls are always laughing. It's like I learned these happiness skills, and I learned how to manage stress and to take care of myself. Well, when I moved to Texas, it's like the worst move of my life. I didn't know anybody here. I had been lied to. I had rented an apartment online,
Mm-hmm.
sight unseen, that was $300 a month more than my house payment in Missouri, which I was still making. And, I was told how nice this apartment was. And I walk into this place and it's rat infested. There's mold, there's broken windows, broken door hinges, um, trash piled 4 feet high on the landing. Just horrible, horrible place. And I was miserable that even growing up in a 4 room house with no running water, it was clean and it was, you know, things worked. It was such that the windows, there was a window by my bed, and when it rained, the window didn't keep the rain out. It would literally, the wind would blow the rain across my bed, and so I was so angry. I was angry that they had done this to me. I was angry that I had to stay there until I could get something else. I had to figure out how to move me and my cats to
Oh.
a better place. But what I would do is I would come home from work, and I learned from my grandmother when I was a kid to take a walk.
Yes. Very much.
And
Yeah.
so that's what I would do is I would come home from work, and it just so happened I lived across the street from a beach, and
Mm.
I would go over there with my camera, and I would take pictures of the gulls and various different things. And I noticed that the gulls always seemed like they were laughing. And I took that as a reminder to laugh it off.
Yes.
It's not going to last forever. I'm going to get through it. I'm pissed off and hurt and stressed, and all of these things are going on. And the gulls were telling me, laugh it off. I'd hear the gulls laughing, and they would remind me, don't take life so seriously. One of my favorite quotes is Oscar Wilde: life is too important to be taken seriously."
I like that one. I like that
Yeah.
one.
And so, but that's part of my spirituality. That was me getting back to my spirituality. It was me recognizing that I had let myself slip
Yes.
away from my spirituality, and that
Yes.
I needed to work myself back into that. And that's what I did. I worked myself back into my spirituality, but that's where I got the idea to write the book. But one of the ways that I've coped since I was old enough to write is poetry.
Mm.
So, one of the things that I also did, in addition to taking those walks, was to write poetry.
Yeah.
And so I wrote poetry about that phase of my life and the things that were happening. It just so happened that I met my husband 2 weeks after I moved here. There's a poem in the book called Cobalt Blue.
Yes.
I you know with go across the street and look for sea glass, and very, very rare that you find a blue piece of sea glass. Very rare. As a matter of fact, to this day, I have never found one. And we're looking for sea glass, and he knows that I want to have a piece that's cobalt blue. And he finds it and he picks it up and he hands it to me. And look, honey, it's the one you wanted. And
Oh.
he's one of the sweetest people in the world. And the poem is, I couldn't find, I've never found a piece of cobalt blue, but I did find you.
See, I like that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So, that he was part of my healing.
It's beautiful to hear that regardless of how much trauma you've been through, you still found a place to allow somebody else to come in and allow their emotions to touch your emotions. That
Yeah.
is a wonderful thing to be able to do. A lot of people in life, Carlyle, build a wall regardless of what's happened to them. They'll build a higher wall. So when somebody who is pure, consistent, true and honest does come in, they don't allow that person in. And a lot of the times that's how people miss beautiful opportunities with another person, because of this wall.
Mhm. We both had to take down our walls in order for that to happen. I had relationships before where their wall never came down. And, you work and you work and you work and you try to maintain the relationship. But if that person cannot get to that self love point themselves,
Yes.
then, it's not going to work. It's like if one of you's married but the other one isn't, it doesn't make any difference what the legal papers say or the
That's
ring on the
true.
finger.
Mm-hmm. I
You both
completely
have
agree.
to be married. You both have to be, it's not just committed, but passionate about your relationship with each other.
Yes.
You have
Yes.
to, you have to just nourish that.
That is so true. I do agree with that. How can you reflect on your relationship with your mentors and friends that contributed to your journey towards self-acceptance as a gay man as well? I think this is very important for people to understand, because a lot of people hide away, Carlisle, from who they are, and some people are in abundant denial about who they are. And it's
Right.
even still today, I hear stories where people are still in denial about who they are.
Because we're taught to hide. We're taught that we aren't supposed to exist. It's like, you guys do what you want, just don't frighten the horses, you know, and stay out of our way and pretend that you don't exist.
Mm,
And society has wanted us to pretend like we don't exist. And part of what's happening in society is gay people are saying, no, I'm not doing that anymore. I refuse to do that anymore. I exist. I matter. I'm just as deserving as you are.
exactly.
I'm not going to hide it anymore.
Yep.
The Let me preface this by saying that when I was 16 years old,
Yes.
the minister of our church did a sermon in which he said, quote, "The sin of homosexuality is worse than the sin of murder."
Pardon?
The sin of homosexuality is worse than the sin of murder. Now, I'm 16 years old sitting in church, and I hear that. And the society that 1960s, rural Arkansas, authoritarian church, if it had not been for my grandmother, I probably would have killed myself. Because what that basically does is it teaches gay kids to hate themselves
Yes, straight away.
straight
Straight away.
away. And not only that, but that whole societal thing of you're not allowed to exist teaches kids to hate themselves. No child should hate themselves, ever.
Exactly.
No child should have to struggle to overcome shame. No person who's an adult who has gone through that should have to struggle to overcome shame. Nobody should have to do that. We should all be taught, no matter if we're gay, straight, or into paper dolls, we should be taught from the time that we're little that our value is equal to everyone.
Yes.
And that's part of that spirituality, is that recognition, that self-love, that recognition that no matter who it is, my value is equal to theirs.
Yes.
Getting that true self-esteem is that recognition that there's no one in the world, no matter who they are, whether it's King Charles or anybody else, there's
Yes.
no one in the world who has more value than me, no matter who they are, what they have, what they think, what they say, or what they do. On the flip side of that, there is no one in the world who has less value than me, no matter what they think, whether they hate themselves or not, whether I can relate to them or not. I still have to understand that their value cannot be less than mine. If this is a homeless person, if it's a murderer,
Yes.
their value is equal to mine. And knowing that within myself keeps me level. It keeps me from getting arrogant and haughty, and it keeps me at peace. And that struggle that you're not supposed to be gay and you're supposed to be pretend, and there's something wrong with you, worse than the sin of murder. That took a lot for me to overcome. That took years and years and years of struggle for me to overcome. My friend Marcy that I was talking about earlier is
Yes.
one of the people
Yes.
who got me through that. It's interesting that all the people who helped me learn to love myself as a gay man were straight. Male and female. I had male mentors as well. They were all straight and helping me to love myself as who I am. So not everybody in society has that idea that you should just disappear and pretend you don't exist.
No, their mentalities are different. Sometimes I think it's because, okay, I'm sure you can get into this also with me, but religion has a major way of manipulation also. But it's not the religion, it's also the people in the religion, if that makes sense, Karlyle.
The way I look at religion is that religion is a tool.
Yes, very
It's a
much so.
tool to help us develop our spirituality.
Exactly, that's the
If we
one.
are not using it to develop our spirituality, if we're using it for any other reason, we're
Which a
misusing
lot
the
of
tool.
people do. Which a lot of people
Mhm.
do.
It's like a hammer is a tool. I can
Yes.
use a hammer to construct a home, or I can use
Yes.
it as a murder weapon. How I
Indeed.
choose to use the tool depends on what happens as a result of using that tool.
Exactly that.
There are people who use religion as a murder weapon,
Mm-hmm.
and they use religion as a way of demeaning and degrading other people. These people have allowed ego to get into the religion and to block their access to spirituality. They don't get it. It's like Jesus said from the cross, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." It's much easier to forgive someone for ignorance than it is for malice.
Yeah.
And basically, what Jesus was saying in that is they don't get it. They're ignorant. They don't understand love. If they understood true love and true spirituality, they could not behave that way.
Yes.
And so, that whole thing about religion, oh Lord have mercy, I struggle with that. And here are these folks who pick out a few little passages out of the Bible about, not sleeping with another man and that kind of thing. And they ignore love thy neighbor as thyself. If you don't have love, you're a clanging cymbal. Judge not that you
Mm-hmm.
be not judged. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone, etc., etc. My best friend currently is a member of a fundamentalist religious church. We've been friends
Mm-mm.
for 25, 20, 28 years. And he is loving and accepting and wonderful, wonderful man. And his quote is, "What makes me think all have sinned? So what makes me think their sin is worse than mine?"
See?
You know? So it's a matter of learning to look at yourself and work on your spirituality. Ego says, I need to
Yes.
tell that person what to do.
Yes.
Spirit says, I need to tell me what to do.
Exactly that. That's what I like. This is what I like. So let's talk about healing. Healing plays a major part of our lives. and on how we heal, especially with mindfulness. Can you talk to me about the importance of mindfulness and being present in the moment as, like we were saying, tools for overcoming trauma and cultivating happiness, which is so true that we should all have?
Yeah, and I don't know how many people actually know what mindfulness is,
Yes,
um, but it is learning to become fully focused on the present moment.
yes,
If you look at all the anguish in your life, the anguish in your life comes from guilt and resentment and what I call happiness blockers.
yes.
You
I
know,
like that,
guilt
yeah.
and resentment, things from the past, fear and trepidation about the future. But if you pull yourself into the moment and focus on that, I used to teach clients, start with your feet and feel your feet inside your shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Feel your socks around your feet. Feel anywhere that your clothes are touching your legs. Feel the weight of your body in the chair. Feel your waistband. Feel your chest and your belly rise and fall as you breathe, and notice that your shirt may touch over here one time and over there another time. With each breath, it may touch somewhere else. Feel your fingers. If your hands are laying down below your heart, you may feel a heaviness in your fingers. Feel your tongue inside your mouth, your lips touching together, your eyes closed. Listen in silence. If you're outside, you can hear the birds,
Yes,
breezes in the trees, traffic passing. If you look at colors, patterns, shapes, textures, reflections, shadows. And so mindfulness pulls our mind off the crap and pulls it into the moment. Now, wherever that moment is, you could do it riding the bus home.
yes,
You can do it on your back deck. You can do it walking in a park. You can do it anywhere. What I do is I create places of peace for myself. Marcy used to say that wherever I lived, it was a treehouse. And so when we bought this house, I had a deck built onto the back that has a pergola over the top of it, and I have hanging baskets with flowers, and then I have all of these plants around that I take care of, and my little attempts at bonsai trees and things like that. Those are things that nurture spirit.
yes, very much so.
Sometimes I just sit in my living room with everything turned off
Yes.
and just sit and look and listen and feel. It's mindfulness.
When was the last time that you felt totally at peace with yourself, Carlyle?
The last time I felt totally at peace with myself,
Mm-hmm.
I feel
Mm.
that every day.
I like that.
It's it. There are times that I get things
Oh, yeah.
shake me off my path. Um, things that will happen, and it's always going to happen that something I don't like that. And then when you get into the I don't like that, then what's happened is that you've slipped off.
It's the way you did it that made me crack up.
Um, and it, reminding yourself to get back on track. It's like driving. The whole idea of driving is to stay in your lane.
Yes, very true.
If your car
Yeah.
starts drifting toward the ditch, what do?
You bring it.
You pull it back into the
There you
lane.
go.
And the idea is to make that journey as safely as possible and not end up in the ditch or across the lane
Yes.
in front of another car. And we make it on a little trip, just a trip to the grocery store or something. We make thousands of tiny adjustments that we don't even think
Yes.
about. to stay in that lane. And so the spirituality is like learning to stay in that spiritual lane. And if you get in the ditch, well, it doesn't do any good to fret about how you got in the ditch. You can cry about it, pout about it, shout about it, but sooner or later you got to do something about it.
Exactly
The
that.
goal, okay, get yourself out of the ditch and get yourself back on the lane.
See, this is why I like having these conversations because they highlight so many different things. And there's nothing wrong with slipping or coming off course
No,
sometimes, because sometimes it
no,
even
no,
channels you to another place
nobody
that
gets it
you
all
didn't
right
even.
all the time.
Exactly that.
Absolutely nobody. And so, and again, it comes down to, it is not my place to try to make somebody else get it right, because if
Yes.
I'm doing that, I'm taking the attention off of me getting it right.
Mm-hmm.
And the key is me getting it right. I'm the one who is responsible for me, and
Yes.
I'm the one who has to make those choices of, and the question is, do I want peace or not? If I want peace and happiness, then there's a skill set to that. And I learn that skill set and I maintain that skill set. And guess what? I'm happy.
There you go. You
It's a
found.
natural consequence of just getting the happiness blockers out of the way.
See, if there was anything that you would like people to take away from reading your book of beautiful poetry, but also telling people about you and your experience, what would you like them to take away?
I want everyone, and and I also think about gay youth and about
Oh,
LGBTQI
yeah.
youth who have a suicide rate that is so much higher than their peers.
Yeah, that is
And
true.
I especially want young people to get it, to understand that your value as a human being, no matter who you are, no matter what anybody thinks, your value as a human being is equal to everyone. Look for those reminders that your value is equal to everyone. You
Mm-hmm.
deserve to be here. You belong here. And your job is to work on spirituality. Spirituality and happiness are basically the same thing. Learn to be happy.
I think nowadays it's even harder for the younger generation. The only reason why I know is because I'm a part of that. So for me, having your wisdom is abundant to us because social media plays a massive part to younger generations, and it creates even more stress, even more anxiety. And younger generations feel like if they don't fit in and other people are looking at them in a certain way, that causes what you call this taking of your life because we feel
I
like
go
we
back
don't fit in.
I go back to that quote by Oscar Wilde that life is too important to be taken seriously. Social
Yes,
media is too important to be taken seriously.
exactly that. And
Don't
it's making them
take it
understand that.
seriously. Yeah, I had posted something years ago about gun laws, and of course, oh my God, mass shootings in America and that kind of thing. And it was right after the Pulse nightclub shooting, and I had posted something about. Actually, I'd written a blog on my website and posted something about it, and these people came in and started saying all of these terrible, horrible things about me and to me on this social media. These comments and comments and comments, and I looked at that and I thought, and I typed back and said, "Thank you so much for the attention. I appreciate that you are helping me to reach a broader audience." And you know
Yes.
what happened? It stopped.
Yeah, see?
It stopped because they didn't get what they wanted.
See, that's the thing. A lot of
Wanted me
people,
to fight back and to feel intimidated. It's like, I ain't gonna feel intimidated. Y'all
and
just
that's
go
what
on
I
with
think.
your
Yeah.
bad self.
Carlisle. See, and this is why I like having these conversations, because once the younger generations understand, like you said, that we are all on the same level, we're all worthy of love and understanding and appreciation, I think there'll be a lot less suicides, which is a touchy subject to talk about, but we need to talk about more of it. And people loving themselves, especially youngsters, but then being able to give that education and love to other people, which is
Yeah.
definitely something
I,
abundantly needs to happen.
I think two of the most important things that people can do in their life is to confront your indoctrination.
Yes,
You were indoctrinated. You were taught all these things. Confront it, question it. Don't just swallow it and believe it because they fed it to you. Confront your
exactly.
indoctrination. And the other is love yourself no matter who you are.
Yes, I agree with that one too.
Yeah.
I agree with that one too. So I've only got two more questions for you, Carlisle.
Okay.
But the second to last one is, we all have a different definition of what legacy means to us in our lives. Some people believe that legacy means that you pass away and you leave an abundance of wisdom behind and so many other things. But to me, the definition of legacy is when you are here, when you are present, how you touch people, like people who have mentored you, who have helped you become the person that you are. Those things to me are legacy. But in your own interpretation and your own definition of what legacy means, what does legacy mean to you?
It's a therapist asked me one time, because my uncle had abused me severely when I was a kid.
Mm,
The therapist asked me one time if I wanted to follow his legacy. And what occurred to me is that in my anger and my resentment, what I was doing was acting like him.
yes.
And I decided I didn't want to be like him. And if I wanted a different legacy, I had to choose a different legacy. And that was also part of that. And, my abuse was part of my indoctrination and all of that anger um, that I had. Um, I had lots and lots and lots of anger by the time I got to college. And I realized that everybody's got a legacy.
Yes, very much so.
And the thing is, you cannot not change the world. You cannot not change the world. If you take a step, you pick up a particle on your shoe and you drop it over there. Every single solitary step you ever take alters the world forever. Take a pen and draw a mark on a piece of paper and then try to put the ink back in the pen. You can't do it.
Yep.
Has altered the world forever. The pen will never be the same. The paper will never be the same. And the question is not whether you will change the world. The question is, how do you want to change the world?
Yes, that is the key.
And that's a decision that we make. It's a decision we make every day. How do I want to change the world today? And I may not be able to do anything to change another person, but I could, you know, there are things that I could do that are just simply compassionate and understanding. Or I could catch myself when I've gotten off track and say, yeah, you know what? I'm sorry, that was wrong. Let me get myself back on track here and get back to my happiness and let them know it's not about them.
See, and this is what I like. This is what I like. And I think that's a beautiful way to actually end the podcast as well. Which, Carla, before we go, I would love for everyone to be able to find you, to read your book, to have a better understanding of you, what you've been through, but also read poetry. And I'm a massive fan of poetry. So please tell us where we can find you on any social media platforms or even websites or
Yeah,
anything that you
you
have.
can connect to my social media platforms through my website.
Yes.
I'm on lots and lots and lots of social media. But the website is karlyletomms.com. That's simple.
Yes.
KarlyleTomms. So it's Karlyle spelled
Yes.
with a K, last
Yes.
name Toms with two M's, and karlyletomms.com. That's simple.
See,
And if you go there, then there's all kinds of stuff on there. And if I get a link to this discussion today,
of
I'll
course
put
you
it
will.
on
Of
there.
course. Of
Uh,
course.
and so there are links there that will take you to my Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, yada 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 yada. So go
I
click on
love that.
something.
Yeah, click something, guys. And this is where I say, Karlyle, first of all, thank you so much for taking your time to come on the Ask People podcast, for expressing your story, sharing your emotions, your vulnerability, but more than anything else is opening your heart to people to make them understand what you've been through and to share the love that we are all equal as one person and no one can take that away from us, but it's just about us finding that within ourselves. So I appreciate you and I thank you so much.
I appreciate you. Thank you for this opportunity, and
You're more than
thank you for
welcome.
asking me different questions than I usually get asked.
Aha, this is what I like. This is what I like because I get to know more about you. In life, they always say it's the question you ask depends on the answer that you receive. So
Mhm.
I always find that abundantly important. And this is where I say, guys, thank you so much for listening to the Ask People podcast. Please remember you can subscribe and leave us a review on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, or any other platform that you prefer listening to. Also, please remember that you can join us every Tuesday where we put out a pre-recorded version of the Ask People podcast for you to listen to every Tuesday. But don't just listen to the most recent one. You can go all the way back to the beginning to season 1 and find a podcast that resonates with you and that you connect with. Also, we're on Wednesdays on Heart Songs Live at 9 p.m. UK time, where we repeat the Ask People podcast just in case you've missed it or haven't had a chance to listen to it. And this is where I say, guys, thank you so much for listening. Stay happy, stay positive, and as always, please continue to be kind to one another. Take care.
Society has made me want to validate me from my illusion that awaits me, from how the people will perceive me. It's my illusion that awaits me. We fight our war with ourselves. Our mental health is silencing us from our health. Social media is taking our time from connecting with each other soul to soul. Why we dance on TikTok, strike a post on Instagram, fight the world on a Twitter feed, link a thing on Snapchat. Why we dance on TikTok, strike a post on a Instagram, fight the world
The last one I did was attempting to control others causes suffering for both the controllers and the controlled.
Yes, very true.
So I'll do something like that. And this is what I did the other day. No one can ever consume enough of anything to fill an empty heart. What you think is missing is not outside of you, but inside of you.
with ourselves. Our mental health is silencing us from our heart. Social media is taking our time from connecting with each other soul to soul. Why we dance on TikTok, strike a post on Instagram, fight the world on a Twitter feed, link a thing on Snapchat. Why we dance on TikTok, strike a post on a Instagram, fight the world on a Twitter feed, link a thing on Snapchat. Why we dance on TikTok? 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 It's taking our time. Why we dance on TikTok? With each other soul to soul. Why we dance on TikTok? Strike a post on Instagram. Fight the world on a Twitter feed. Link a thing on Snapchat.